Hi, well, thanks for coming. My name is Julie Millen and I'm at SAC, and we're going to get started here with a little activity. It is called Stand Up If. So, if you are able, when I'm going to read some sentences here and some prompts, and stand if you're able, if this applies to you. Actually, we'll have, if everyone's able to stand, you can stand now. And that's okay, you don't have to. If you're not gonna be standing, just wave your hand if this applies to you. So, if it applies to you now, if you're standing, just take a step forward. Okay, so if you are a parent or a caregiver, please step forward or raise your hand, however you want to do that. Okay, now you can take a step back. If you are a student, please take a step forward. And forward and then back, forward. Oh, yeah, no. I need lots of this. Very good question. Yeah, because we don't end with them. Very good question. Okay, so we have a couple here. Oh, I guess I still am a student right now. Okay, and take a step back. Nice. If you are an educator or work in a school, please take a step forward. Okay, educators, take a step back. If you live in Ypsilanti, take a step forward. Hey.
Township.
Ipsy, yes, that's fine. Right across the street, too. If you currently have children in the K through 12 system in Michigan, take a step forward. Okay, and step back. If you attended a K through 12 school in Michigan, step forward. Okay, almost everybody. And step back. If you feel our schools lack what students need to succeed, take a step forward. They are hopping. All right, and step back. One last one. If you are ready to fight for resources and equity for our schools, take a step forward and do a dance. All right, awesome. Thank you. Whew. Shake it out. Here we go.
Thank you. Yep. So, good evening, everybody. My name is John Weiss. I serve as a volunteer with Student Advocacy Center and also for the Michigan for Many campaign. And we are grateful that you took time this evening to join us to talk about this very important topic and to hopefully step up when we end this evening for our call to action. I'll be facilitating this evening along with Julie and Perry. So the three of us will be your guides this evening. One of the things that we wanted to do as we start off is to have a welcome. So I'm going to just do a diversity welcome. I'd like to welcome people of all genders. This may include people who identify as women, men, cis, trans, non-binary. I'd like to welcome people of African descent, Black, African American, Asian, Arab, European, those who identify as Hispanic and Latinx. I'd like to welcome people who are Native and Indigenous, especially those of the Three Fires people, the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi, whose traditional ancestral territory on which we're meeting this evening. I'd like to welcome all languages spoken here, including Spanish, English, Arabic, Indigenous language, sign languages, and any other languages. I'd like to welcome people who currently struggle with getting access to the resources necessary for survival, like healthcare, adequate housing, reliable transportation and childcare, and people who currently have more access to those resources. I'd like to welcome people with disabilities, visible or invisible. I'd like to welcome people from the gay, lesbian, bisexual, heterosexual, pansexual, queer communities. I'd like to welcome survivors. And I'd like to welcome people who identify as activists and people who don't. I'd like to welcome people who are single, married, partnered, dating, asexual. And finally, I'd like to welcome people of all ages, people in their teens. Thanks, students, for joining us. 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and if there's any 80s or 90s in the room, you are welcome. You are all welcome here. The other thing that we just wanted to do real quickly is to have some group norms, which is always a good thing to do. If you are in a room having a discussion about important issues. So the first one is we want people to speak from the heart. So speak what is in your heart, but also listen from your heart if there are things that maybe you don't agree with, or that this is doing a lot of. To not only speak from the heart, but listen from the heart. So if there's something that you may not agree with or that surprises you, be open to it. Come with an open heart. Also, one diva, one mic. So whoever has the mic is the diva. So I'm the diva now. You want to sing, Jules?
Always.
We also ask that you share the air. So some of us are real extroverts. We take up a lot of air. And some people need a little bit more time to gather their thoughts, so we want to create space for everybody. We also want to make sure that we center the voices of those identities that are often marginalized in society. So black and brown folks, women, people from the LGBTQ community, people from the disabled community, people who are often marginalized. We want to make sure that their voices are centered here this evening. And then also, it's okay to disagree, but don't be disagreeable, because we might get really mad at you if you do so. So thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs down. Can you live with these tonight?
Yeah, they're okay, John.
No, okay, I'll take it. Cool. So let me share with you what we're going to do. So Jules is going to come back. She's going to tell just a little bit about Student Advocacy Center and a few of the other groups that are helping to support this event. Then we want to hear from you. We want to hear what your concerns are. So we're going to do an active exercise to see what's on top of mind for you about what you think's going on in schools and what some of the biggest challenges are. And then we want to present to you some of the information around schools funding and its impact, probably connected to most of the challenges that'll come up in the earlier exercise, because it's important to understand how funding works for our schools and the impact that it has. We're going to focus on three segments of funding in particular that help to support our most vulnerable children. It's important to kind of hone in on those. And then finally, the plan to win, because we got a plan of action and we are hoping you are all in. It will make big changes throughout the state and here in our community in Ypsilanti. So we hope that you leave today excited to help support that and participate. So I'll close my eyes. If that's not what you're here for, you can quickly run out of the room. Okay, everybody stayed. Susie even came into the room, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to Jules, who's going to kick us off.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, John. So I have been interning at the Student Advocacy Center since September. I will be graduating in 6 days with my Master's of Social Work. And I have a job already started at Student Advocacy Center. So I'm going to be the organizing and event coordinator there. So I am going to be starting to do these things and get out into the public and the community. If you're not familiar with Student Advocacy Center, we are based in Ypsilanti. We also have an office in Detroit and one in Jackson. And we have mentors and we have education advocates. We have a helpline that anyone can call if they're having trouble with IEPs or getting suspended or expulsions. So we are basically on a mission to collaboratively work with youth and families to help them with school rights, the quality of their public education, and to help them grow and experience success. So as organizers, we also have some youth programs, and we are teaching them to organize and to lift their voices and fight for what they need as well. So yes, go students. Woo, woo. So a little bit about my background is I've worked and been at Eastern for many years. I started back in the early 2000s and got my Master's of Fine Arts here. And then I taught for a while, and then I was gone for a while, and then I came back for a while. Now I'm getting my MSW, and I love it here, and I love Ypsilanti. I have a son who just turned 22. He started many years ago back at Estabrook, and he had an IEP, and so I spent a lot of years fighting the systems that are in place, that are currently still in place, and are probably worse than they were 10 years ago. So I feel, we also started a parent board at SAC too, so super excited about that. And so it just gives me another lens to look through when I'm trying to help with education, because I've been there. And it's really tough to navigate, especially we have a lot of single parents, which is what I was, and it's a tough road to go. So I love working with an organization that is missioned around building them up and making them stronger. So actually, that's our first person who's going to speak. No, I'm just kidding. The phone rings and you're in trouble. No, just joking. If you phone rings and you need it, that's fine. We're cool with that. Let's see. So, this month there are a lot of community conversations happening across Michigan. And so this is one. There was one in Ann Arbor not long ago. And so we just want to get these conversations started to think about what can getting more funding for education look like. Because we're losing it, and we're losing it quickly now. And so I'm glad that you're all here. So thank you for being here to listen. And we would like to welcome some people from our community. Rep. Jeff Irwin is here somewhere.
Senator.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. And we have Rep. Jimmy Wilson, I think is here. Whoop, whoop. We have County Commissioner Annie Somerville's right here. And our Mayor of Ypsi, Nicole Brown. Thank you so much for being here and for listening and for taking all this education that we're speaking and taking it back. What? Who? Where? Board member? School board member. Oh my God, everybody's pointing everywhere. Yay! City council member. Hey! Look at, see? I'm gonna meet you all. Isn't this fun? I'm so excited. I'll know you all next year. Or you'll know me too. And one of the best ways to get ideas across and to really know what's happening is to talk with the stakeholders, the people that are in there doing the work. So we would like to invite a student up to speak, Aiden. Woo-hoo! Awesome, Aiden. We appreciate you. No, you don't want a mic? Okay.
Mom is
My
kind of
name-
small.
Yeah.
My name is Aiden. I am a 10th grader at Ypsilanti Community High School. Thank you for letting me speak tonight and share with you why I think it's important for Ypsilanti and other public school districts to receive more money and resources to support their school. I was asked to think about why. I was asked to think about what I might like to see changed in our districts and had more resources. Two of my biggest dreams were a greenhouse for botany students and extracurricular activities for students in particular. I would like to see a gaming team called esports, just esports in general. Then this team would be able to compete in gaming tournaments. Like one is like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I used to do here. And I also believe we'd all love a better physical environment and wish the schools would have more resources to deal with more important like social work activities, schooling activities, and of course more counselors in any school, actually. Then I know that some schools are running low on counselors for high schools, middle schools, elementary. And of course, with more resources and funding for teachers and or like student advocacy center, they really need the funding.
Hey. We didn't tell
No,
us.
I'm coming up with all this on the spot.
Yes, go.
So, and so we can recruit the best teachers and here and keep amazing stuff we have. Thank you.
Yes, awesome. Woo! Awesome. Thank you so much, Aiden. Thank you for taking your time and being here with us. Awesome. And now we were going to have a parent speak. Karen, where is she? Ah, there she is. Thank you. Woo! Go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen. I'm here today because I have a 6-year-old son named Jacob who receives special education services, but there's not enough funding, and so he hasn't been able to receive all of his services he's entitled to this year since the beginning of the school year. Without those services, it places him and all the other kids in special education at a disadvantage. My son deserves to have an exciting chance to be able to learn and grow and be successful in school. They say kids are our future, but cutting the funding and or not having enough funding sends a clear message that our kids' education is just not that important. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen, for being here. We appreciate you taking your time to be with us. And we have one more person. Floki, would you like to?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have to get my phone out, sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm not used to talking in front of so many adults, so you have to excuse me. My name is Floki Ivy. I'm a teacher at ACE. I've been teaching for over 10 years. I've been teaching in the district for 3 years. This is my 3rd year. This is my 2nd year at ACE. My 1st year was at the high school. ACE High School is our alternative high school. If you're familiar with Pathways in Ann Arbor, or like the Pathways of Ann Arbor kind of is contextually how I like to tell people about it. What I want to talk about when it comes to school funding is how there are there's been a lot of disinvestment in schools, and it's caused a lot of different problems, and we've been very creative in the ways that we've dealt with these problems. Especially during COVID, you know, having kids go online, having kids go through different methods of learning, having different teachers work with different students. But I have to say that I, in a lot of ways, am not old school, but when it comes to teaching, this is the one thing that I might be old school about. We need butts in seats and teachers in front of students in small class sizes, tried and true. And so I work with, and ACE has a big contingent of students who go to school online. That's one teacher to about 200 students online. And the students are accessing the curriculum through online. The way the students get put onto these online programs are because they become credit deficient. There's a lot of reasons kids become credit deficient. Some of it's behavior, I'm not gonna lie. Some of it is because students have moved around a lot and their parents move around a lot. And so they become credit deficient because certain schools haven't transferred certain credits. Some of it is because students have been put into the juvenile justice system and they're not always part of the Michigan Merit curriculum. So students will come out of the juvenile justice system and not have the credits they need. And so then they're credit deficient again. And then we have students who are just failing their classes, good old-fashioned failing their classes. So they become credit deficient. And to deal with some of these credit deficiencies, we've been putting the students online to catch up with their classes. And like I said, that means one teacher to 200 students to deal with it. And while it may seem cost effective on its head, you know, 1 to 200, that's cost effective, it's costing our district a lot because there's very little teacher to student interaction just because of numbers, not because of lack of trying, that's for sure. And so that has led to increased dropout rates of the students who are online. And increased dropout rates are just bad for our bottom line, period. We get money from students from staying in school and staying with us and graduating. And when kids drop out, it's bad for our funding. We need more money to work on kids staying in school and being in the classroom. It's not only expensive for having to catch kids up and having kids not be educated and not graduating on time, it's also expensive to the community. The students that are at home, you know, idle hands, they get in trouble more. They have more interaction with the police, more interaction with the juvenile justice system. They more than often, because of, like I said, they go into the juvenile justice system, they don't access the Michigan Merit curriculum, so they're more likely to not graduate. And just above all, student potential is not being recognized. These are some really talented students with some really talented, that have some really under-recognized talent, and they're just sitting at home playing video games, which is not bad. Like, compete and play video games. I play tons of video games. But at the same time, that shouldn't be all that you do. So we just need to have some kids find their purpose, find where they want to be in life, and you know, that's what school did for me, and that's what I hope school can do for other people. The other thing that we're dealing with is teacher retention is a huge problem. We have a lot of students who have gone through a lot of trauma, and we know that having teachers that come back every year and the students know and recognize is trauma informed. And so having different teachers every year for the students to interact with has been challenging. Some ways that I think that we could spend money to solve this problem is we could have a climate and culture coach to help with the climate and culture of the building so teachers feel heard and listened to. Also, it's hard for teachers when the students have chronic absenteeism, so I think transportation needs to be addressed. And then also students' needs more broadly need to be addressed, like clothing, access to internet at home. Like I said, the kids are going online and doing class online, but then don't have internet at home, so that's a problem. And so then they're having to do work at the library when it's open, or go to like a McDonald's or something like that. And then, you know, we could just use like more clothes, more shoes, more belts, more fresh socks, fresh underwear, Tide Pods, stuff like that, just stuff like you could think about. And then also just improve facilities. I'd like to echo that from the other student, you know, good heat, good paint on the walls, a place that makes a kid want to get up in the morning and come to school so they feel like they're being appreciated. And that also, in that helps retain teachers. When students are being successful and students are doing well, it really makes it worth coming in the morning. When students aren't showing up and they aren't doing what they need to do and you aren't feeling like your purpose in life is being fulfilled, it really makes it hard to want to come to work in the morning. So that's pretty much all that I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. Oh, wrong one. Mm-hmm. Hello? Oh, okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Loki. We appreciate what you do for students every day, so thank you. And now I think I'm going to hand it. Oh, I'd also like to thank our sponsors, co-sponsors, We Rock and ICPJ for helping us out. So thank you, thank you.
Cool. So we heard from some direct stakeholders about what some of their concerns are in school. So now we want to open it up and hear from everybody in this room about what are some of the top concerns that you have that are top of mind. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to hand out some Post-its, and we're going to encourage everybody to take 2 or 3 or 4 Post-its, and also take a Sharpie marker. And what we'd like you to do on each Post-it is write a concern that you have about schools. So one thing that you might write on your Post-it is, we don't have enough social workers in our schools. And you'd be absolutely right, because the ratio is 1 to 1,000 in the state of Michigan. 1 social worker for every 1,000 students. So we want to find out what you're thinking, what's top of mind for you, what you're concerned about for schools. So if you could write 1 concern per Post-it, again, try to take 2 or 3 or 4 Post-its, and then we're going to post them up on the wall here, and we're going to gather around and have a little bit of a debrief. So we'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes to write some ideas, and then we'll discuss it. Yeah, so what you're going to do is you're going to write some concerns that you have about schools. What are some concerns you have about schools? 1 concern per Post-it. And just, keep it brief. It's just a little phrase. Again, the example I gave you is there are not enough social workers for our schools. Public schools broadly. So as we continue to talk about the concerns and the challenges that we have in schools, a lot of it is connected to resources and funding, and we're going to get to that part of the meeting in just a moment. We do want to just offer a few statistics for you to understand what the current state of Michigan schools are, at least by the numbers. So first of all, Michigan has some of the lowest test scores in the nation. We are 43rd out of 50 in 4th grade reading. We are 33rd in 8th grade reading out of 50 and 31st in math, in the lower third in Michigan schools. We have some of the lowest graduation rates, 4-year graduation rates for students with disabilities. It's currently, the state average is 58% of our students with disabilities graduate within 4 years. The national average is 70%. We are way below that. Yeah, what's up, Michigan? We also have, as we've alluded to, we talked about it, we heard some real stories. There are a lot of mental health crises going on among our students and our staff educators as well. And when students are having mental health crises, we can't educate them. It is impossible to educate them. We also, connected to that, a lot of students who have mental health issues stay away from school. And we have some of the highest chronic absenteeism rates in the country. Chronic absenteeism is defined by missing 10% or more of school of the year. 30% of our students in Michigan are chronically absent. 40% of our economically disadvantaged students are chronically absent. It's abysmal. And then our students' access to counselors is one of the worst in the countries. There is one counselor for every 600 students in Michigan. The national average is 1 to 385 students, which is still horrible, but we are like really, really horrible. So there are a lot of problems and a lot of statistics to back up what's going on. So carrying out the business of school is always difficult, and I'm grateful that there are educators in the room and people on the school board who can attest to that. I was a teacher. In normal times, we don't have enough resources. Educators are burnt out. Students come to school with many problems that we really are not equipped to address, and it is just impossible to carry out the business of school. And then on top of that, we are not in a normal time. As all of you know, the administration has dismantled the Department of Education. It's okay to boo. Thank you. That means that they're looking to eliminate federal oversight of education, cutting student aid programs, stripping money for our most vulnerable students. As you may know, a lot of federal dollars are tied to special education and to economically disadvantaged students. So as they dismantle the Department of Education, our most vulnerable students continue to be at deeper risk than they ever have been. Double boo. You can boo again if you want. The other thing that I want to acknowledge, and this just makes me incredibly sad, that some families are afraid to send their students to school because they come from identities that have been targeted and vilified. And I'm talking about students from migrant families, from undocumented families, talking about our trans youth. It is a dire situation, and we need to do something about it, and that's why we asked you to come here this evening. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now, and I'm going to turn it back over to Julie, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about school funding and the current situation.
Oh, so since this is educational, we are gonna have a little quiz. Whoop whoop! Pop quiz. Get out your pens. No. Put your notebooks away. I used to write answers on them. No. So which of these is correct? Research has shown that how much we spend has no real impact on student outcomes. Or B, that research has shown that how much we spend has a significant impact on student outcomes.
Let's say B.
B. Who would like to tell me why you picked B? Yes.
Test scores have been shown to be very much linked to socioeconomic, the essence of the families.
Yeah.
And the socioeconomic status of families is directly tied to how much money schools get. For example, Ann Arbor is able to get more funding than Ypsi is. I don't need, I'll speak louder if you want. We're just recording. Oh, sure, okay. I don't know how to turn it on.
Hello. Hi.
I know, right?
It's a lot. So saying that test scores are statistically linked with socioeconomic status of families, and socioeconomic status of families is directly linked to how schools are funded, and including things like the Hold Harmless Clause, which allows districts like Ann Arbor to levy more taxes from their constituents than we're even allowed to in Ypsi, even if we, were able to. So funding is just inequitable, and then those test scores show it.
Thank you. Correct. Yes, money matters. Some people say it doesn't, but we all know it does. 22% increase pupil funding directed at low-income students can eliminate the issue. you look at these statistics, just the differences in some money and funding for schools can make higher wages, it can do help get folks out of poverty, increase teacher wages, helps with school output and grades. So it all really matters. Funding matters. Quiz 2. How well are Michigan schools funded? A, oh, we have C. We have 3 this time. Funding for Michigan schools has stayed relatively steady for the past 25 years. B, funding for Michigan schools has declined severely over the past 25 years. Or C, funding for Michigan schools is at its highest point now in the last 25 years. Per pupil allotment? It's the highest per pupil allotment. It is the highest per pupil allotment? Inflation. What do y'all think? B. A B. Who wants to share out? Oh, okay. Well, it's just. Okay, we'll keep going.
Tie it to sin taxes.
B. Yes.
You tie it to sin taxes, and then you're reliant on people being addicted to gambling and tobacco use and alcohol use, and so that's you're not going to win.
So, total education revenue in Michigan, inflation adjusted, you can see is going down.
That doesn't look good.
No, that does not look good at all. By, what happened there? Yeah, what years? We had a different, yep. Yeah.
Trifecta. Sorry.
Okay. Number 3, how do we get more money? Which of these is correct? A, compared to other states, Michigan already has high taxes, and the richest families are paying the top rates. Or B, shall I read it? Compared to other states, Michigan has low taxes, and the richest families are paying the lowest rates. B, I don't know that there's a discussion for that, really. I think that's kind of where it is. Also, if we look here, so the effective tax rates in other states are pretty high. Michigan rates the 46th out of 50. We are down at the bottom with 8.6. And if you look over here, you can see that there are the different rates on taxes right now, income taxes, and the lowest is paying more than pretty much the top 1% and about the same as the 4%. So, yeah, that's a big boo. So that's what we would like to discuss. Harry?
Anyone surprised? Because we've been hearing a lot about like how we're spending so much money on schools, and are people surprised at any of those stats?
Nope.
No, that's because you guys follow us, right? All right. Okay, hold on. I'm going to tell you this quiz in a minute. But before we sort of dive into how to get more money, which John's going to talk about in a minute, and specific actions we want you to take tonight, we kind of want to take a step back. Can I go like that? It's so loud. Is this good? Okay, thank you. Is that? It just is what it is. Okay. We kind of want to make sure you understand at a broad level about Michigan schools funding. So that's what we're going to do. I'm not a professor. I'm not a teacher. I'm a social worker and an advocate, so I'll try to make this as interesting as I can. And if you have pressing questions, feel free to ask them, okay? Everyone who knows me knows I love public speaking and I love teaching about money. It's my favorite thing to do, but, okay, that's not true, but I really care a lot about our public schools. And the reason I'm here, sorry if you didn't know who I am, I'm Perry Stone-Palmquist. I'm the co-ED of SAC. And as we've been in the schools helping our kids, it always comes up. There's not enough money, there's not enough money. We are in school districts all across the state, particularly in Southeast Michigan. When I'm in Ann Arbor, it looks different than how it looks in Ypsi, compared to Dexter, compared to Detroit. It's not okay what's going on. We got to do better. So that's why I'm here. All right, where do we get our money from? Most of our money comes from local funding. Most of our money comes from the state. Or C, most of our money comes from the federal government. Boy, what do we think? I can't hear you. A. I heard an A. I heard some B's. I heard A's and B's. Okay, let's see what's true. Does that surprise you? You think this mic's better? Everyone has a different idea which mic. Okay. So federal funds make up about 10% of the budget. Some people I talked to said up to 17%, so I don't know. I get different numbers depending on the official person I talk to. But as many of you know, as John sort of alluded to, federal funding is at risk. If you look at Project 2025, it's calling to phase out Title I dollars and other funding, so we might even have it for a while as a block grant, but if the plans are right there. The plan is to phase it out. So. Which one? This is Michigan.
Yeah, so like when you're talking about federal funding being 10%, and in Michigan, it's much higher at YCS.
Sure, right. Yep, thank you. So anyway, because of the federal funding and the amount, do you happen to know how much it is in Ypsi?
Don't recall, there's a cool tool that UN has.
If you get it, just shout it out, but it is more in certain districts for sure. Yeah, but we want to know percentage maybe. So because of that, this is the time to really talk about our local money. You think 17 is closer?
No, we have countywide, but you need to be 17.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, there is a flyer for that to dive into that more. We are going to spend our time today talking about state funding in particular, but where does state school aid money come from? Can you shout it out? What do you think? Say it louder. Property taxes. Property taxes. What else? Lottery.
And I want to know what is the percentage that goes from the lottery to public schools? Because when they first started talking about the lottery, that's how they sold it.
Oh, yeah.
They sold it that it was going to go to the school.
Yeah, so the TIAS is 40% is sales use tax. Sales and use tax is almost 40%. Personal income tax is about 17%. Lottery is only 6%.
Which accounted for some of the jump because we went from 4 to 6% sales tax.
Yeah, and these numbers aren't fixed, right? They might change from year to year, right? So funds are distributed to our local schools according to a formula that takes into account the number of students in each district, the number of students eligible for free and reduced lunch, and other factors. And we know that districts like Ann Arbor, for instance, get about $500 more per student than students in Ypsi. That's an interesting message. Okay, so this slide again shows that declining revenue. But what I want you to pay attention to is where we would be if we had maintained our 2009 tax effort. So if taxes were the same, the effort was the same, that's where we'd be. And this is where our actual revenue is. You guys see that little dot in the middle?
I don't understand what that means. What do you mean making cuts in 2009?
How about we circle back to you later, and I'll even connect you with Dave Arson, who is an economist who created this, versus me, who's not an economist. I'm hoping you're just getting the overall picture that we're not spending as much. I'm not as good at explaining it as he is, but this middle dot is what I want you to pay attention to. There was a study done, actually. What would it take to adequately fund Michigan schools? Not optimally fund. Over there, we talked about what we want optimally. Just what adequately would it take to fund Michigan schools? And that's how much we would need in the middle, right? So we're a ways off of that, I guess, is the point of that. We're going to keep going if that's okay. Nope, that's okay. Because we aren't where we need to be, Michigan schools have had to make a lot of cuts for a variety of reasons. So I want to shout out the educators in the room, people who are working in the school districts. It has been really hard, and there's a reason. If it feels really hard, there's a reason it has felt so hard. It's because we aren't The revenue hasn't been there. It's gotten a little bit better the last couple of years, but we have a long ways to go. I think it's really important, especially in Ypsilanti, to acknowledge where we're at with funding equity, especially since we know that research shows that additional dollars, as Julie pointed out, are especially impacted when they're targeted to lower income students, right? So if you see here, again, Michigan's not doing well. So we are one of only 15 states providing less funding to the highest poverty districts than to the lowest. And our foundation allowance, according to some, is actually pretty high, but we're in the bottom 15 for equity, meaning we're not really targeting our resources the way we should be. So how are we doing, just to summarize? According to that school finance research collaborative study, in today's dollars, we are underfunding Michigan schools by about $5 billion. If you just saw the school facility study that came out, that showed we need another 20-something billion, I think, or something crazy, just to have the school facilities, so that's a whole other cost. We are down in terms of our revenue growth, and there's very poor matching still of our revenue to services for students that are low income, students that have special needs. Yeah, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more, so about 31A or at-risk money, that also has been declining. So that's kind of where we're at. I know that sounds really depressing, but we're gonna talk about ways to affect that. But we wanna dive in just for a minute about 3 special areas of funding that deserve a little bit of extra attention. We're part of a statewide coalition called the Michigan Education Justice Coalition, and in the summer, we really talk to our families and students across the state, particularly in districts of color and low-income districts. What are the priority for you? What should we really be making sure we're funding? And these are the 3 areas that were identified, and these are the 3 areas that we're gonna be focusing on when we go to Advocacy Day next Tuesday. I can't believe it's already next Tuesday. Yeah, so I know some people here have already registered. If you wanna come to Lansing and advocate, maybe we'll hang out with Annie. I think we have an appointment at Senator Irwin's office. We're gonna be seeing Jimmy, so you already know what we're gonna talk about, but that's okay, because then you're ready to tell us how you're gonna help us fight for these things. Okay, so the first one is 31A. Has anyone heard of 31A? Yeah, okay. This is a critical piece of Michigan's school funding system, and it helps students overcome significant barriers to success. It's often called at-risk funding. Like that's what it's called in the law. I know a lot of us don't like those words, but that's what it's called. And it's really focused on outcomes. So looking at student attendance, reading and math, career and college readiness by high school graduation. So it can't be used for administrative costs, but it's really targeted for things like academic support, a lot of the things we were talking about over there. So medical and mental health and counseling services, restorative practitioners, instructional, behavioral coaches, anti-bullying, crisis intervention, attendance, truancy programs, things like that. That extra student support that a lot of people were bringing up over there. Those funds can talk about that. And the way it's decided, or the way they determine how much money, is they actually do a count of students that meet certain criteria. So that could be that they are eligible for free and reduced lunch, their household's getting SNAP or TANF, they're homeless, migrant, or in foster care. And just as a quick aside, the number of students, this shouldn't be that much of a surprise, in Michigan has been going up dramatically that are eligible for this, but the pool hasn't been increasing as those numbers go up. The way this money is distributed is so important, especially for the folks here who care about Ypsilanti. This was a little bit harder to sell, maybe when I was in Ann Arbor, but I was surprised at how many equity-minded folks were there and seemed enthusiastic to want to support it. And I'm bringing it up because we're going to be talking about how to increase the pie and how to increase school funding, but if we're not talking about equity and the fact that some districts need more, and if we're not in this fight for the long term, all of that money isn't going to be distributed in a way that's okay. So we really need people from Ypsi in particular to really be fighting for this. Sorry, I get a little emotional about it, but the way that it's funded, we actually made history in 2023, joining the nation's, there was like 10 other states with the formula that accounts for concentrations of poverty. And it created, I think it's 6 bands So if you are in a district that has a higher concentration of poverty, you're going to get more per student, per at-risk student, than if you have less concentration of poverty. So we know school districts that have higher concentrations of poverty, they might struggle to have a PTO that can raise a bunch of money to send a kid to a space camp. That might be a struggle, right? Actually, in Michigan, 37% of our poor students live in high poverty districts, and that's one of the highest rates in the country. There's a lot of research that came out recently about concentration of poverty. And we're living this, so we know some of the challenges. There might be more challenges to access to health care. There might be challenges to access to mental health care. These are often children that can be more often exposed to violence and trauma, and that affects school performance and need in the classroom. And so there's a reason that this 31A opportunity index is distributed this way. I'm telling you, there will be a fight. There already is a fight going on. We'll just keep putting money in the regular per pupil. Frankly, I think we should decrease the per pupil and put more money in 31A because it's more equitable. Yeah, but not everyone agrees with me, so we have to be good stewards of our money. And we told you what's the research is settled. It's settled when the research is settled in terms of money targeted to low-income students. That research is settled. That's where we know money matters. It's going to be a bigger fight, I think, again. And so we really need people who understand this and understand why it's important.
I have a quick question. Is
Yep.
31A tied to count day, or is it just based on the numbers locally?
It is based on count day, but they have to do a special count of who qualifies as at risk.
But they look at your count day number?
I don't know the answer to that.
They do.
Yeah.
But then they do, like Grace said.
They have to do additional
two
pupil
other
accounting.
schedules and another formula based on count day and other risk factors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah. Okay, special education. Been brought up by a few folks. And we already mentioned that Michigan has one of the lowest graduation rates for students with disabilities. So we already talked about that. Each year, there are significant portions of special education costs that remain unfunded by school districts, even after receiving federal, state, and ISD special ed revenue. So in 2021, districts and ISDs incurred $655 million in uncompensated special education costs. And then that has to be paid through their general education dollars, right? Michigan is one of only 6 states in the country that fund special ed through a reimbursement system. Guess what? We're not at the top of that either. We have one of the lowest reimbursement rates in the country at 28.6%. And it hasn't increased since the state was forced to begin payments due to a lawsuit 40 years ago. So the state used, by the way, this is kind of a success since we're getting kind of down. The state used to not give school districts the full per pupil allowance for students with special education. They gave them less. And we're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. They're a full student, right? So those of us in the coalition, some of you came to Advocacy Day. We fought for that, and we started getting 100% per pupil. So I think this will be the 3rd year in a row. Yep. So standing up and talking and advocating together in one voice matters. Yep. But the costs are still, school districts are required to fund these. We need them to fund it. It's better for all students if students with special needs are getting their needs met. So we need to really be keeping a close eye on special education and making sure it's being funded more. And then the last one very quickly is mental health. Not quickly because it's not important, but there's not quite as much to say about it, but we know that their anxiety, depression, and things like that are on the rise, but schools are still struggling to keep up with those needs, right? So in 22-23, our state actually established the 31AA mental health and safety grants. That was one of the top priorities for the young people in the coalition that we're in. They really fought for that, especially young people in Detroit really took the lead. It was really inspiring. And that felt like a real win for them, which was really awesome. We need to listen to what young people want in their schools, and our legislature did listen, and they established this fund. The first year was $150 million, and then it increased to $328 million in the 23-24 school year. That's a huge success. I know Representative Wilson was a big advocate of it as well. Last year, the money got slashed to $25 million until folks like you advocated and it got back in the budget, up to $150 million in the supplemental in the fall. So we're trying to get it back to $300 million. So this is really important. We've heard from school districts how much it means, and they really want it to be ongoing funding, and it's dedicated to mental health. So that's a big priority for our young people, and we want to stand with their young people and advocate for that. And I think you already said all the stats, so I don't have any other stats to say, other than Arizona is the only one that has the worst ratio for student to counselor. We don't want to be worse than Arizona, do we? I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Those are the 3 areas that we're really going to be focusing on in Advocacy Day next week. If you can't take a day off, some of you can, thank you. Some of you have already taken a day off and you're ready to come. If you can't, we're going to have some call-in information, so you can also call in and participate that way, and we'll have a script and stuff for you. Do you want to say this part, or do you want me to say this part? Okay. So we just gave you a lot of information. I didn't have the answer to all the technical questions, and I warned you that I was not a professor, but I do know professors and economists who can answer those really hard questions for you. There's a lot of smart people in the room, and please don't hesitate to reach out. I had someone after our Ann Arbor one ask a hard question of Ed Trust Midwest, so it's just been fascinating to sit back and listen to their conversation about everything. So please don't, I know some people are really into the numbers and really want to know the stats, and I love to be a part of that too, so I will connect you with people, so please reach out.